What's up, y'all? Welcome to Sabrina Talks. I'm Sabrina if you're new. If you're not, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for joining me. Now, today on Sabrina Talks, we are going to be getting into the festive spirit and we're going to be talking about a new Christmas movie that recently just came out on Hulu, which is called Happiest Season. Now, Happiest Season was written and directed by Clea Duvall. It stars actors like Kristen Stewart, Mackenzie Davis, Victor Garber, Dan Levy, and Aubrey Plaza. Now, essentially, this movie focuses on the two characters of Abby and Harper, played by Kristen Stewart and Mackenzie Davis. Harper is going home for the Christmas holidays and decides to ask Abby to tag along with her. Now, Abby has some hesitance at first, but she eventually agrees to go on the trip with Harper. However, as they're about to start their holiday trip, Harper shares some information that changes the course and the nature of this trip, which then results in some chaos and nonsense happening throughout the movie.
So who do they think I am?
This is Harper's orphan friend, Abby.
So I want to kick off my review by giving my spoiler-free thoughts. So let's first talk about the things that I loved in this movie. One of the big things I loved about this movie is its comedy. This movie is hilarious. I've watched it about twice now, and each time I crack up at the same moments because it's just really so funny.
It's a gentleman alone in my apartment, so I'm tracking him to make sure he leaves.
You're tracking him?
Yeah, I track everybody. If the NSA can do it, so can I.
Dan Levy's character and Mary Steenburgen's character both, to me, gave me the heartiest laughs. Dan Levy's character, John, plays the best friend to Abby, and Mary Steenburgen's character, Tipper, plays the mom to Harper. Both of them in their own right provide me with a different sense of humor, but both are hilarious. Mary Steenburgen's character really embodies an upper class privileged white woman, and I think all of the things that she says is just really hilarious. Kristen Stewart's character of Abby really also gives me some great laughs.
This is Abby. Abby is my orphan roommate. I am an orphan, but we live together as friends, like acquaintances.
Oh, please stop.
Yeah.
Kristen Stewart is usually known for being an awkward character in most movies and TV shows, and she kind of delivers that same kind of character in this show. Just her little mannerisms that she does really crack me up. So she was also a really good highlight to the comedy in this movie. Another thing I really like about this movie is that it feels so grounded in reality. I think they really take the time to kind of build the world and build the characters. Now, disregarding a couple of things, which I'll talk about later, most of the events, most of characters' actions, most of the set feels real and feels like an actual town and feels like actual people who have flaws and are developed. Most of the side characters in this movie have something to learn and something to grow from, which I quite enjoy, and they're not just kind of people who are there. The beginning credits to this movie and the beginning scenes to this movie really help make it feel like an established world and make it feel like we are just, plopping into somebody's actual life. As much as I enjoyed this movie, it definitely still has its problems. I'll talk more about the problems that I have with it in my spoiler section of this review, but in general, one, it just kind of falls into that LGBT trope that's kind of going around in mainstream media nowadays that I'm not entirely a fan of. Also, as with most things, it could definitely have used some more diversity in there. There was maybe like a couple of people of color, and it just wasn't enough for me, quite honestly. It also does that thing in movies where by the ending of the movie, everybody's forgiving, all is well. Even though, some serious things happened in the movie, everybody's just magically forgiven. And I mean, that doesn't really hinder the movie too much for me, but it's still something that I'm like, yeah, okay. But overall, I think this movie is really cute and I think it's enjoyable. I definitely think it's a good start to get the ball rolling for like more LGBT rom-com Christmas movies. So hopefully we'll get some more with that. To me, it was like if a Hallmark movie and Love, Simon kind of combined, I'd imagine it'd be this movie. Now, if you don't know, I love Simon. That is one of my favorite movies to come out of recently. You can go check out my Love, Simon review in the cards and also check it out in my description. To me, Happiest Season really kind of gave me the same vibes that Love, Simon gave me, where it's really kind of wholesome. It's an LGBT rom-com and it has a good message and also just, had some heartbreaking scenes in the mix of it. So I think those elements really gave me the Love, Simon. And then some of the like Christmas movie cliches and some of the problematic nonsense and the lack of diversity in the movie kind of really gave me like Hallmark movie vibes. So that's why I say I think it's like a mix of both of them. I definitely think you should give it a watch, especially since it's on Hulu. It's really easily accessible. The movie's not all that long. and I think by the end of it you should at least find some kind of joy from the movie. Now I want to get into some spoilers of this movie. If you have not seen it, now is the time to click out of here. Make sure to come back though after you've seen it so you can see my spoiler filled thoughts. And let's kick off this spoiler section with some things that I did not like about this movie. In my spoiler free section of this review, I mentioned how there's some LGBT tropes in this movie that I wasn't a fan of. I want to talk about them now. One of the tropes is the fact that somebody gets outed. Multiple people get outed actually in this movie, and I'm just not a fan of that. That's not something I think we should be normalizing out here. The fact that Harper outed Riley in the past was bad enough as it is, but then for Sloane to then out Harper in front of her family and all of the people at the holiday party is ridiculous. I don't understand the need for somebody to always have to be outed in these kind of movies. And the same thing happened in Love, Simon, where Simon gets outed, but Simon at least in that movie got to have a chance to yell at the person who outed him and tell him that that's not okay and that he shouldn't be doing that. But in this movie, nobody yells at Sloane for outing Harper, and I don't think anyone really ever yelled at Harper for outing Riley, and I see that as an issue. Because if you're going to have a storyline where somebody gets outed, at least have somebody be like, that's absolutely not okay. But they didn't really do that in this movie. Sloane eventually says sorry later on in the night, but like I don't think she really said sorry for like, hey, sorry, I just outed you to the whole entire world. And I just have a major issue with that. Another issue that I had with this movie is something that I also mentioned earlier in this review, is the fact that there is not much diversity, and specifically there's not much diversity in the main characters. This is once again another lesbian story that features two white women, and it's just something that I wish that we would evolve from. I technically understand because society loves putting white people at the topmost pedestal, so if we're going to get a story about somebody who's of the LGBT community, or you know, of any other thing that's not normal, we're always going to get either a white man first or a white woman first before we get some, you know, actual representation of minorities. I also quite don't like Harper in this movie. Now, my issues with her are not because she was afraid to come out to her family, because that's a scary thing. Everybody needs to come out when they're ready. However, the action she took to hide the fact that she was gay is the thing that I have a problem with. Once Abby and Harper gets to Harper's childhood home, it just all goes downhill from there. Harper keeps leaving Abby by herself, keeps letting her family believe all these different things about Abby, doesn't include her whenever she goes out with her friends or starts talking with her friends. She basically, you know, outed Riley in high school. Also, Harper had the nerve to tell Abby that she felt suffocated by her, even though this whole entire trip they've had nothing but space because they're pretending they aren't in a relationship. That moment I was like, wow, Harper's really trash. Like, how could you say that to your significant other after you basically just forced her back into the closet? Like, speaking of Harper's nonsense actions throughout the movie, that's another thing that I mentioned earlier that I did not like about this movie, is that everybody gets forgiven very easily. Harper does nonsense the whole entire movie, but all it takes is for her to go track Abby down and go, I'll make it up to you for the rest of my life. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was terrible, blah, blah, blah. And then Abby goes, yeah, okay. And then everything's all fine and dandy. I don't know about that. I know she loves her, but like, I'd expect at least a couple of days of you thinking about it before you easily forgive her. Also, Sloane, Jane, and Harper just magically forgive the parents so easily after years and years of neglect and conditional love. Like, I don't understand how everybody could go, well, all right, well, you said you're sorry, so it's fine. But even with all those negatives, there's still things that I really enjoyed about this movie. For example, Abby and Riley's like kinship, I thoroughly enjoyed. Because if this was a Hallmark movie, they definitely would have went a route of annoying love triangle between Harper, Riley, and Abby. Thankfully, they just kind of left it at Riley and Abby just being kind of friends. And just Riley being someone that Abby can talk to and kind of just be herself around, since she's basically hiding herself the whole entire trip. I'm glad they didn't try to make Abby and Riley a relationship, even though they technically are the superior couple. Riley was just a nice support system for Abby, and I think that was great. Also really loved Jane in this movie. The family disrespected her to no ends, But I love that in the ending of the movie where she says to the family, like, y'all might not like the fact that I'm part of this family, but I'm a part of this family and I like me and I matter, so y'all just gonna have to deal with it. I thoroughly enjoyed that because they could have just left Jane as the black sheep and someone who is really self-conscious and, you know, doesn't like themselves. But the fact that she had her moment to be like, no, I put hours into that masterpiece that y'all destroyed. I'm valid, like, I like myself even though I'm not fancy like y'all. Like, I really enjoyed that moment for her. John's conversation with Abby towards the ending of the movie after like the big climactic scene is something that I also thoroughly enjoyed because I think it was very much needed.
Just because Harper isn't ready doesn't mean she doesn't love you.
I love that he reminded Abby that not everybody has a great coming out story, and I love that he told her even though Harper chooses not to, you know, come out to her parents and is afraid to come out to her parents, it does not mean that she doesn't love Abby. And I think that's just such a beautiful message to get across. And what I loved even more than that was John telling Abby that she has the right to decide whether or not she wants to be in a relationship with someone who is not ready to come out. And if she does decide that she does not want to be in this relationship, it is valid because she's a part of this relationship too. I think that conversation was the best thing to come out of the whole somebody being outed situation. I think they might have been able to get that across without somebody being outed, but I am nobody's script writer, so I imagine most LGBT stories don't focus on that aspect of coming out. So I'm kind of glad that they were able to have that kind of discussion and make that point. There's some details in this movie that I thoroughly enjoy. For example, the beginning credits of this movie feature like little picturettes of Abby and Harper throughout the year. So they show them at like Thanksgiving, they show them at Halloween, and just various other like events in their life. And I think that really helps establish them as a couple before we even start the movie. I also thoroughly enjoyed that like meet the family scene that happens once Abby and Harper get to Harper's parents' house. I think that scene really just kind of shows the dynamics of the family and kind of really shows you who each character is without explicitly telling you. I think Happiest season was very cute and very enjoyable. It definitely still has all of its problems, but I definitely think it's still worth the watch. Now, mind you, this is just how I feel about the movie as a straight woman. I definitely recommend finding some LGBT creators on YouTube and see how they feel so they can give you their thoughts and opinions better than I can because they are actually a part of this community. Thank you so much for watching my video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Give it a like if you did. Comment down below if you've seen Happiest season, if you have any thoughts and opinions on it. Share this video with your friends so we can all talk about the movie. Subscribe to my channel because I'll be having more movie related content, more TV related content, more music related content, all the content that's related to entertainment. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you have a great holiday season. And as always, please remember to be safe, be kind, and be smart. Bye, guys.